Hello, I'm Heather Dawson, and welcome to California Life, where we bring you the best of California every week on our show. Well, it started as a bread factory in the 1900s and now produces beer. Our very own Peter Dills visits the Mission Brewery in San Diego.
Heather, you're correct. You got me again. I love beer, especially craft beer. Well, we're moving out of craft beer month. We're moving into Father's Day, and I'm in San Diego, home of the Chargers and the Padres. Yep, they're famous for their sports, but I got a feeling San Diego is going to be famous for their craft beer as well. We're actually at a craft brewery right here in San Diego. In a couple seconds, we're going to talk to the owner, Dan Sellis, and he's going to take us step by step how he got involved in the craft beer business. But first, we better try the beer. Andy. That's good. On with the show. Dan, I think you've got a funny and a unique story on how this brewery got started.
This started 25 years ago when I was in college, and I was renting a house from this guy, and I asked him one weekend, just randomly, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And he said, I'm brewing beer. And 25 years ago, it wasn't very common to homebrew. And I looked at him and I said, you're brewing beer? That sounds radical. I want to do that. And he said, go buy the kit and the ingredients, and I'll come over and show you how to do it. So I went out, bought all the ingredients. He came over, taught me my first batch. So for the next 15 years, I brewed every month, sometimes every weekend. I started to enter competitions, started to win amateur competitions. And from there, I went through the beer judge certification program and became a certified beer judge, which really increased my beer knowledge to the point where I had the confidence to start Mission Brewery.
How is beer made?
The process starts from the barley that's in our silo. We use different types of barley. Some of the grains are roasted a little darker, chocolate, malt, crystal malts, etc. Depending on the recipe and the type of beer that we're making will depend on what kind of grains we're using. If it's a stout, there's a lot of dark malts. If it's an IPA, there's some crystal malts in it. From that point, it travels through an auger into our mash tun, where the grain is combined with hot water at just the right temperature to convert starches to sugars. We turn on sprinkle fountains over the top. It's called a sparge, which pulls the sweet juice out of the grain and pushes it into the kettle. At that point, we have what's called wort. We boil the beer for 60 to 90 minutes and add hops. Most beers are balanced between the sweetness of the malt and the bitterness of the hops. So adding the proper amount of hops into the kettle is very important. Too many hops, it's too bitter. Too few hops, it's too sweet. And again, depending on the type of beer that you're making, you want to have that balance just right. So in the kettle, we do our initial hopping that adds the bitterness. Midway towards the end, we add more hops, and that adds the flavor, hop flavor to the beer. And at the very end of the boil, we'll add more hops that adds aroma. From there, the beer gets pushed through a heat exchanger, cools it down into a fermenter, where we add yeast to ferment the beer. So different yeast strains depending on, again, the type of beer. The German yeast strain for an authentic Bavarian Hefeweizen, or an American yeast strain for the IPAs. After about a week, fermentation is complete. We can filter the beer and push it into a bright tank, which is the final step of the process. In the bright tank, we carbonate the beer and then can package it in bottles, kegs, and cans.
You are the only craft beer company in the United States that is actually doing a 32-ounce can.
That's true. It is the only line of its type in existence.
And the end result?
Delicious beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey Jenny, what's going on?
Here?
Yeah, I'm here, and you know, the greatest thing about coming to a brewery is that some of the beers that you have on tap, in the bottles, in the cans, are not available yet for retail and for restaurants. So that's exciting to me.
Absolutely, such as our Cortez Gold Belgian style blonde ale. It was a very popular style in our tasting room, and we decided to offer it to the general public in 32-ounce cans. So Peter, just remember, this is a working brewery, and people can come right into our tasting room and enjoy all these wonderful beers.
That's Jenny from Mission Brewery. I'm Peter Dills, and we're signing off from the Mission Brewery here in San Diego.
Thanks, Peter, and you can follow Peter on Twitter, King of Cuisine. And coming up next, we find out the tricks of the trade in the new social media industry with blogger Britt Morin. It's all coming up right here on California Life. Don't go away. Joining us now is the vocal coach to the stars, Valerie Morehouse, from the hit ABC TV show Nashville. Thank you so much for joining us, Valerie.
Thanks for having me, Heather.
And as you know, I was telling you earlier, I'm a huge fan of the show. What is the most surprising thing to you? Just, working with those actors and getting them to the ability, not only that they could sing and sing well, but actually be on the radio.
Every actor is at a different level or phase. Some of them had some singing experience before, some of them more than others. But every single voice is very, very different. So it's been very challenging to kind of get them all on the same page. The other aspect to that is they have these very, very long filming days, and we have to do the music element, so it puts a lot of pressure on them.
Did you think they would all be able to pull it off?
It was questionable. There were a few that I had some questions on, but for the most part, again, they all had some ties or roots in music, some further along than others, but I knew that I could get them there. So I was confident that whatever they lacked, we could give them the proper tools to finish the job, and we've all been just so pleasantly surprised.
Were you surprised when they asked you to actually play really yourself on the show?
Well, that was a funny story. I was in Nashville and I was there to record with Connie, and I looked at the script because we were trying to work something out, and I noticed that the following script had a vocal coach in it. So I jokingly said something to one of the powers that be, the music supervisor, and I said, hey, do they have someone for this role? Sort of tongue-in-cheek, and she said, we actually don't. And I said, well, I have my SAG card, again, joking, and she says, well, let's make a call. And before I knew it, they had asked me if I would play the role on TV, so it was fun.
My girls, we actually watched it as a family, and my girls loved the two daughters sing.
Oh, they're great.
So were they singers ahead of time, or do you work with them as well?
I do. They have this natural ability on their own. I think their parents are musicians, and they've been singing together since birth, I think, but they are just so talented and just so natural. And the good thing about the girls is they haven't hit that age yet where they're aware of themselves. So I think that it makes it a little bit more fun for them, and they're just a blast to work with. Everybody just really loves them.
Well, my daughters, love to sing, and seeing that and seeing all the success with children and children actors, what is your advice to kids that want to get into singing? Is it something like a coach? You want your kid in baseball, they're going to have a coach. Is that something that you recommend?
I do for certain kids and certain ages. Everybody's a little bit different, but I always go off the child's sort of attention span, how focused they are. All the singers are a little bit different. I think that it's very important, if they're ready for it, to get them in at the right age, because you're thinking of yourself, like you said, an athlete. And I don't think a lot of people pay close attention to that. I think they just think that they can sing, but they don't have the proper vocal health or the method or the musculature to keep up with the rigors of that career. You've got live shows, you've got recordings. And most of my clients now that are signed, that are young, they're having to do rehearsals 7 days a week. It is really, really taxing. And if you think of your body as a sport or dealing with that like an athlete, you have muscles inside your neck that you're overworking and overusing. And so what we do is try to steer the kids in the right direction so they have the right method, they have the right coaching, where the vocal cords, again, like bodybuilding or doing anything athletic, can stand the rigors of press and shows and concerts and having to be on night after night after night. And you can't just do that on your own.
What's your best advice? I mean, do they go for somebody like yourself that's worked with celebrities, that has a track record, their local choir teacher? I mean, kids all over.
That's a hard question to answer because, I came up on that level through the high schools and the collegiate level. And unfortunately, there are some good teachers on the collegiate level. A lot of them are not that great. They maybe haven't had the right training, and it just kind of lends to a larger problem. And so you really do have to make sure that you get a referral. That's my biggest thing, is who's that coach training with, what kind of singers are coming out of that school or out of that teacher's studio, and that's your best bet, because there is no certification for a teacher. It's not like a doctor or anybody, a physician, or even a massage therapist has to have a certification. Vocal coaches, vocal teachers do not. So my best bet for them is just to find that referral in their hometown, find that person that's having a lot of success, and do your research and make sure that all of those people's singers are healthy, that they're progressing, they're moving forward, and that's really, as a parent, where I would start.
And of course, anybody that wants your information, they can go to your website.
They can. I have a girl right now that was sent to me by one of the music producers for Nashville and said, you really need to hear her. Her parents flew her out to LA, and she had a session with me, and this girl's 9 years old, and I've not heard anything like it in a long time. So that's a client I would take on at that age because she has the focus to do it, she has the want to do it. And I think it's just child per child. You have to see where their comfort level is, where their skill set is, and be very, very honest with them and with their parents so that they know, what am I spending my money on? Is this a path we want to go down? And I'm always very forthright with the parents and letting them know what my expert evaluation would be.
Thank you so much, Valerie, for being on our show.
Thank you
I
for
can't wait
having
to
me.
see everything that you do in your career.
Yeah, thank you, Heather.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And coming up next, we find out the tricks of the trade in the new social media industry with blogger Britt Morin. It's all coming up right here on California Life. Don't go away. DIY, or do-it-yourself, has taken over the internet, and Gabrielle Daddario explains how you can win a $5,000 cash prize by submitting your own DIY projects.
Possibly stemming from our tough economic times or the increasing creative souls in our society, DIY has become a leader in decor. Projects range from clothes and accessories to party decor and weddings, and there's really no area that's been deemed off limits. Britt Morin is one of our nation's favorite DIY bloggers who's recently partnered with Scotch brand tape for the Scotch-sponsored Make Amazing contest. Britt explains what the contest is and how easy it is to enter your design for some cold, hard cash.
The Make Amazing contest is really a way for us to see what people are doing everywhere using tape and to really give them, a little incentive. We have 3 $5,000 cash prizes. So we're actually looking for all of the creative things that, the country is doing with tape.
Britt & Co. is a new media company providing tools to teach, inspire, and simplify everyday life with DIY projects almost anyone can do. Like many other crafters, Britt didn't begin her career this way.
I was fairly creative growing up, but not unlike, many other kids. And then I got really immersed in the world of technology. I worked at places like Apple and Google, and I think I, bent a little bit too far in the digital world that I forgot, everything that was so great about analog and creativity and making, and actually found that the two worlds of digital and analog can actually connect in a really cool new way. You're seeing people get inspired by all kinds of projects online, teaching other people new skills online, and giving people the means to share what they're making and to sell what they're making using the internet as well. So I found my creative passions using both technology and good old-fashioned creativity.
Creating something amazing is easier than you might think. Britt explains how to create some of these great crafts.
To get started, these vases are made using nothing but clear shipping tape, if you can believe it, and just some really colorful accents that can match your home decor if you want to. If you have pictures, you can customize some really basic photo frames with patterns and colors that match your home. And then if you want to put up some interesting wall art, you can just buy a few blank canvases, and instead of using paint, using tape actually is a lot quicker and probably a little bit more affordable. Literally just takes minutes. You can create, just a cool abstract design, whatever kinds of designs you want. Or you can even decorate the wall itself. I've used the Scotch Expressions masking tape, which comes in all of these really neat colors, to create just a really simple geometric triangle pattern.
Entering the contest is easy. Just grab some Scotch brand products and start crafting. Upload and share your photos on Instagram and you'll be entered for one of 3 $5,000 prizes. Britt explains where to go to find more information.
Yep, so again, it's scotchbrand.com/makeamazingcontest. And if you want to see even more creative ideas, you can check me out. I'm at britt.co.
Bringing you the best of California, I'm Gabrielle Daddario for California Life.
Well, fracking is a highly debated topic here in California, and Breitling Energy CEO Chris Faulkner explains how fracking in California can help the economy rise and why he stands behind his documentary and newly authored book.
Chris Faulkner, CEO of Breitling Energy, is with us today to discuss the effects of fracking and the environmental concerns. His new documentary and book dispel many of the myths associated with this hotly debated issue.
Chris explains how his documentary shows how the fracking revolution has helped failing economies rise.
Over the course of my career, I've met a lot of people that have been impacted in a great way because of oil and gas, folks in North Dakota and Texas, whose lives have been changed really in a meaningful way because either they're connected to the oil and gas industry directly or indirectly because their communities have benefited from lower unemployment and economic impact and growth. And so I wanted to capture those stories and tell those stories, but no one's telling the story of really what this means for our country, and that was our goal with Breaking Free. And look, it addresses all sorts of things. It addresses myths, it addresses the concerns around fracking. We have people that are talking about some of the issues that they perceive around fracking. So it's not just a pro-oil and gas movie, it really is telling the full story of what's happening in America because of this energy revolution.
The jobs that come from Breitling Energy aren't just short-term positions. Chris explains how positions in the oil fields become careers for some.
They're long-term jobs, and more importantly, we're adding new jobs. So this is not a flash in the pan where someone's going to come have a job for 6 months and then they're out of work. These are long-term jobs, and the support of these communities are being built up.
While there are challenges with oil drilling in California, Chris points out that drilling here has advantages too.
You guys produce 500,000 barrels of oil a day. You have a long history, and folks have forgotten about this, of energy in general. In California, in 1982, was importing 5% of its oil from foreign sources. Today, that number is 50% of foreign sources, while the United States is reducing its dependence. You guys are increasing yours. California, as a state, needs additional income and it needs additional jobs. The Monterey Shell is an example of an asset that could be built out. California has led the argument and the conversation about the environment for the last 20 years, but I think now it's become so micro-focused that it could waste its resources. It will be more dependent on foreign oil sources. You're bringing oil in from Saudi and a number of different places, while every other state in this country has reduced its dependence.
Chris's knowledge in the oil industry helped him author the new release called The Fracking Truth. Chris explains why he wanted to write this book.
I wanted to write a book in first person about what fracking has done for our country from boots on the ground. Not an academic looking in, but someone who's involved right in the middle of the situation. And it's a book that gives a perspective about what it means for America. It addresses the challenges, the myths, the perceptions, and it talks globally about what fracking is doing for our country on the global stage. We have perception challenges that the industry is dealing with, and I recognize that. I'm trying to do my part to get out there and at least educate people. Whether you want to change your mind and you still hate fracking or you like fracking, that isn't up to me. But I do want to be able to tell folks that, look, you're not making an informed decision, you're making a decision off of what environmentalists have told you. So my book, hopefully, will be a platform for folks to read and then make an informed decision. It's a book that is written in first person from my own experiences, and I think that's been unique, and I hope everyone enjoys reading it.
You can find out more about Breitling Energy by visiting breitlingenergy.com, and you can order or download your copy of The Fracking Truth, The Shale Rock Revolution on Amazon.com or by visiting thefrackingtruthbook.com.
Bringing you the best of California, I'm Gabrielle Daddario for California Life.
That's it for us. If you missed any part of our show, you can go to our website, californialifehd.com, and don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. I'm your host, Heather Dawson. We'll see you next time.